Good day and welcome to the Strong Ambition Podcast. I'm your host, Rylan Crawley. I'm here to dive into what makes people ambitious. And today we have a special episode as the round table. And who's going to be joining me is VIP members from the Maverick Coaching Academy. One of my previous guests, Gavin McHale, has Maverick Coaching Academy for fitness entrepreneurs. And these members of the VIP group are part of the mastermind group that I constantly talk to. And it's been so helpful for me and all of these members to really share our struggles and share our battles, but also to be guided by a great mentor like Gavin. And this was a really cool conversation because we could dive into what makes their business each unique, what makes their challenges different, but how similar we all are within our struggles. And I also really appreciated how we could just reflect on, yeah, I know what you mean. And we kind of built off of each other's ideas. It's a longer episode because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of the same struggles, and it was really cool to get everyone's perspective. So if you're really interested in what it is to have an entrepreneur's mind, this is a great little podcast to hear our stories and to hear our mindsets and what drives us and the struggles we have to, to get through in order to be our own boss. But I think there's a lot to learn here for anyone who really wants to understand that real passion lifestyle is what I like to call it. So without further ado, here are the ladies of the VIP crew. Good day, ladies of the VIP Maverick Coaching Academy. How are you all doing today? Jen Hernandez, Kila Duncan, Megan Pomerinsky. All right, well, let's get this flowing here. So all three of you are part of Maverick Coaching Academy. First off, let's kind of dive into a little bit of each of you individually, and we're going to kind of do a round table style here. This is a first time I've done this, but I think this will flow well. We're going to go Jen, your seat 1, and then Kyla seat 2, and Megan your seat 3, just because that's how my screen's set up and it works well. So very first question here so that people can find a little bit more about you. Why don't you tell us about who you are, tell us your business name, and what is the specialty of your business? Jen Hernandez.
Okay. I gotta go first, guys. Amazing. Thanks for having us, Ryland. Um, this is fun. Okay, so I'm Jennifer Hernandez. You guys all know me. So I'm a self-love coach. My business name is Jennifer Hernandez Coaching, so you can find me like that online. And what was the last question, Ryland?
Well, what's your specialty, your business? What makes it unique?
Ooh, oh man, how much time do we have? Just teasing. Um, you know what, Rylan? This is literally my life's work. It's my own kind of work and soul healing that I've had to do, and I think it's special because it's kind of like it. This is like my calling to sort of like support people in not hating their life as much as I did and really connecting to that love that we have and just feeling that confidence being able to show up like that. So,
So can you just peel back the layers there? If someone signs up for Jen Hernandez coaching and they say they hate their life, is it in line with trying to improve their current career or change careers? And is that kind of what you're talking about?
mm, yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. Well, sometimes career change is part of that, like improving life quality, right? And a lot of the time, people that come to me, they're maybe they're newly single. There's like, finding confidence through their image and stuff, and it's um, yeah, yeah, it's just sorry, you guys. I'm all nervous and excited. I'm so excited that I forgot what I was saying. So yeah, it's kind of like like I'm connecting with people pleasers. And so the thing is that I want to help them to just feel confident showing up and shining in exactly the light that they are. I want them to be able to blast Can we swear on here? We shouldn't
Absolutely.
discuss that. Okay, cool. I want them to blast the shit out of their mariachi music because growing up as a kid, I was so ashamed. I didn't want anybody to hear my dad's Mexican music blasting around town. I was like, oh my God, that is so not hip hop or pop or Britney Spears or Backstreet Boys, right, Meg? So, like it was just being able to feel confident and learning to be okay with being me. So that's really kind of what I give people is like the opportunity to see how cool it is when they just show up as themselves and like that magnetic energy and how they can start actually creating more people like that by being that person. So yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I always said when we were at our meetings, it's like you help people's souls. I think that's a very, very powerful thing and untangible but irreplaceable. So that's awesome. So let's keep this circle going. We have Shaq here as well, so we'll get to you after Megan. But Kyla, why don't you tell us about your name and your business and your specialty? What makes your business special?
So my name's Kyla Duncan. My business name is Purely Strong Fitness. It has started as a online personal training business because it all started through COVID, and then it's now kind of getting into more of the realm of like online continuing education courses. So I still do all the personal training. I actually started taking in-person training now, and I really focus on connecting with your body and knowing your awareness and using that functionality and understanding the functionality of your body so that you don't have to be in pain when you're doing movement, that you understand like you're definitely not going to injure yourself because you can feel it in your body when you're doing a movement. So I really educate on that, and the more I educate my own clients on it, the more I really wanted to like educate personal trainers on how to do it. So I just started an online continuing education course, and that's now the new path of where I want to go.
I think that's awesome. And it's funny how we get this kind of calling, right? It comes from usually our own time, it comes from our own mistakes. And you see how the system's broken. That's why, as all of us have been influenced from Gavin, from what he saw that's so broken in the system, right? So I think that's awesome. All right. Well, Megan Pomerinsky, tell us about yourself, your business, and what makes it special.
Hello. Okay. My business has gone through a shift lately. So it started out straight up clinical athletic therapy. I've been a clinical AT for 7 or 8 years now, working full time in private practice and with some sports teams locally. Went through some of my own injury craziness and realized chronic pain is very underserved and there is not a lot of understanding around it in our education. And ATPT Chiro can anything. So I went back to school and did a master's specializing in chronic pain, created empowerment rehab after leaving a gym that I was working at because the name was chosen because I think people need to be more empowered in their own health and fitness and not rely on other people to fix them and just tell them everything that's wrong. So I'm really passionate about making sure clients and the general public understands that. And then that's kind of shifted my business into some teaching, continuing education, where I work with an international program called First Principles of Movement. I started coaching in Mavericks for the clinical clients to try to help them build and grow their businesses, and started doing my own mentorship one-on-one calls with ATs as well. So it's kind of a blend of a bunch of things, but the underlying message that I think what makes it special is every aspect of it is all about empowering other people.
That's why you got a great name for it. I think that's awesome. And
Thank you.
I love how this keeps coming up, right? That continuing education piece of, there's something that people aren't getting. There's something more to this and getting out of the same traditional routine of just doing a traditional job. That seems to be pretty consistent with all three of you. So
Yeah.
so that's great. Now Shaq Attack joined us a little late, but she's here. I'm super glad. Shaq, so why don't you tell us about your business name and what is the specialty of your business?
Okay, so my name's Shaquelle. Sorry I'm late, but I'm here. So my business is called Connectivity, and it took me months to come up with this name. And my business has kind of had many shifts, and it still has some shifts to go till I get to my kind of full vision for it. But I started off working with people that have type 2 diabetes and working with them on a personal training coaching level. I have been a personal trainer and health coach for about 3 years. So I decided I wanted to branch off into my own thing because there were pieces missing in the personal training and coaching world where I was working. So, especially on the mindset piece, I found that it was really missing in personal training and in the chronic illness realm. And I'm interested in both. So I just combine them all because it's all health and wellness all together. So the kin in connectivity represents the kinesiology background I have. So movement, having a specialty in chronic illness, activity. I wanted it to show or represent activity from like a physical activity standpoint, but activity related to health and fitness. So not just exercise, but also activities as in making food and eating fun and doing meditations for your mindset and all activities related to health. So that's how connectivity came about. And so my vision, I'll start with the current. So right now I am focused on body positivity. So I went from chronic illness to body positivity focus. So right now I'm empowering women to add in more activity, add in more healthful activities into their lives, and more positive thinking with that. So coming from a place of love of your body, you're starting to eat healthier and you're starting to move more and take care of your mental health instead of coming from a place of hate, which is really, really common, I find, in the health and fitness world. So that's how I came up with that. And my next kind of step is now to combine the two. So body positivity for people that have chronic illnesses. Because when we are diagnosed with a chronic illness, we almost lose trust in our bodies. And I want to create a space where people that are diagnosed or close to being diagnosed with any chronic illness can come to a safe place where I'm not going to be like, you need to go on this restrictive diet to get rid of this chronic illness. No, we're going to fix the whole thing. So we're going to fix your mindset. Why did you get to this place? How did you get to this place? Not just looking at the physical body, but the mindset as well. So that is connectivity.
That is awesome. I think that's such a beautiful sentiment of what the problem really is for a lot of individuals. And I know I've certainly been in the self-loathing just from where you have mental expectations for who you should be. And I wrote this recently in my blog, and I finally realized where the mistake has really lied with myself was when I stopped, using the word hate with myself. Dislike is like one thing, and negative feeling is one thing. But if you always use hate, you don't even sit and look as why you're doing things. And so I think you're stepping in the right zone, because these people already can have so much self-loathing that you get past that. You can find these, really deep level things. And I think that's very powerful. So we got some great businesses here. This is awesome. I'll just tell mine really quick. Mine is RQ Training Nutrition. And my specialty in my business is to empower the client. So a lot of you talk about, continuing education. I want to give the education directly to the client as much as we can. With my NEM series, trying to educate people and show them the training. You have some people who want this knowledge, some people who want to know how to, make their own food, not the here's the diet list, you gotta eat this exact diet. Let's find your diet, let's find your training, let's find it all fit for you. So that's what makes my business different. And yeah, it's empowering to know where you're different. It's important to know where you're different, right? So with that, let's step into what made us want to do this, because we can work the traditional 9 to 5. There's a lot of gyms out there. There's a lot of therapy clinics out there. Some of us have worked in them, and so what made you want to run your own business over working for others? Because, most people aren't like us. So Jen Hernandez, I think this really speaks to what you do. So why don't you tell the listeners what made you want to start your own business and travel your own path?
That's so easy, Ryland. Uh, let's see. I was in the military for 12 and a half years. Full stop. I am not a do this, do that, be on somebody else's agenda kind of person. and it was such crap, and there's sometimes like so my trade in the military, I was a resource management support clerk, which basically meant that I had an HR and finance function. And like when I retired, I was the finance sergeant for the unit, so I managed the budget, but I still very much had like a leadership role and such. And so transferring over, like there was a lot of times when we were able to work from home, and the more and more you see how remote you're able to do your job, it's like, well, why am I wasting all my goddamn time in traffic? Like, I only live, I don't know, it's 22-minute drive at night from here to where I used to work, but it was an hour and a half of my life every day, one way, and then the same thing home. And I'm like, okay, like, this is ridiculous. And, if I'm teaching my clients about self love and following their own path and creating freedom for their life, and literally what I do is I teach people life by your design. Okay, how to have your cake and eat it too. I need to start showing up and living life that way too. And so, luckily, the military, I was medically released. And so it kind of forced me out to figure out what I wanted to do. But, I've just been setting myself up with these transferable skills, and it's kind of like it was time for me to figure out how to bring them all together and create what I'm doing now, which is what I'm doing. So yeah, freedom, Rylan, freedom. You know how much I keep talking about Costa Rica. I'm going there in February, guys. Is this happening in February? I'm out of here. Like, it's okay. So and like I saw these guys once in Costa Rica, and they were working their own business, like computer programmers, and they were on the beach surfing. That's how I met this guy who was surfing. And he's like, oh yeah, my friend and I were gonna go back and work, and they're just doing their shit on their computer, and they were done for the day, and they're in Costa Rica. And I'm like, why the fuck am I dealing with traffic every day? This is such bullshit. I could be walking across the street to the beach. That's where I want to be. And so yeah, man, like the more remote I can be, the better I can show up for people. Look, I have my dog here all day. Like, how could I not be happy when I show up for my clients now, right? So it's literally setting myself up to show up as the best version of me, to like absolutely lead and inspire other people to do the same thing for themselves.
I love that so much. That's a very important mindset, and a lot of people just don't know that we have this power. I had this gal Jody Taves on, and she was initially an AT/strength coach, and then she went into actually working at a high level knee clinic, and then she went into actually just going to graphic design so she could live in the mountains. And I asked her, like, what kind of advice would she give a younger version of herself? And she said something very powerful that I never thought of. He said, not what you want to do should be asked. How do you want to live? Like, where do you want to wake up? How do you want your life to look? And no one had ever really, gave me that question, that perspective. And now it's constantly what I'm asking. And the way you describe that is like, that's the how. That's the how. That's the lifestyle. That's the day to day, where you wake up, where you see, and all these things. How do you want to live? That's a very powerful perspective and an inspiring one too. So Kyla, let's switch that over to you. What made you want to shift? And I know COVID was a bit of it, but is there anything else? Like what really drove you into it? Because it's a hard job.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been like the athletic kid. I've done every sport like growing up, and just, always been around like movement and also getting injured, and like also just like always in the athletic training room watching, people like get their ankles taped and like my ankle taped. And it just always like, interests me, like, how do people get hurt all the time? And so with that thought process, going through college and athletics and sports and everything, I got my kines degree, and I decided, like, I don't know where to work. I don't know what I want to do with this. So I ended up being like in a front desk job at a gym, and I was like selling, and I was like, this is not what I want to do. And I'm watching all these personal trainers, I'm watching these coaches just like coach, and I'm like, I could do that. I could tell people what to do. Like, that's exactly what I know how to do that. I'm like, talk to my brother. I was a bossy little sister, like I could do that. And so the I would say, like, long story short, I ended up at a gym that taught me a lot more about connecting and preventing injury, and really teaching me, like, you don't have to be hurt all the time, and movement doesn't have to hurt. And picking up a barbell shouldn't be scary because a doctor told you that you can't do that ever because you're going to pull your back. Like, and trying to teach people how to do that was very intriguing to me because it was like, I've been hurting myself my whole life in sports and thought that was just like a thing, but it's not. So with COVID, came the opportunity to say, okay, it's your turn. It's your turn, Kyla. Like it's your turn to take this on your own and start, teaching people instead of thinking you're teaching somebody else's philosophy or someone else's theory. And so uh, a lot of my clients stayed with me, and because they trust me, they trusted me to get rid of their pain and injury even over a Zoom call, which is crazy to me. And I still have a good handful of them that still trust me to this day, that still call me all the time and say, okay, what's today's workout today, like, and they can even spit it back at me. Where one of my clients the other day, he was like, hey, my wife got injured like running, like what, I think this is what's going on, and he told me everything that I would have said. Like I was like, dude, look at this, like you listened to me, like and that like blew my mind. And that's what I live for. Like that's when my clients are just as smart or even smarter and educating me and telling me what's going on in their body, their wife's body, I'm like, done. I did my job. I definitely did exactly what I was put on this earth to do. And so with that, trying to change over to teaching personal trainers how to get this feeling of like, hey, your client can tell you what's wrong with them. Your client can trust you instead of telling them, do 10 squats, do this, do this, do this. And then they keep coming up injured. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be like that. So now getting into more of an education role where like that fuels my fire, like people being educated and knowing their body and also telling me what's going on in their body, because that builds a relationship, that builds the trust that I've always wanted and understand, where I'm like, oh, thank God, like I can ask you, like, how'd you pull your back? And it's like, oh, I was trying to lift something up, but I know what I didn't do, Kyla. I didn't do this connection. I didn't feel my hamstrings. I didn't like, and I'm like, okay, cool. As long as you know, and then we deal with it. And then we figure out what we need to do for that. So taking that and now giving that to other people to keep spreading this awareness than just, oh, let's go to a corporate gym for a 45-minute workout and just like make you squat for 30 minutes of that. Like that doesn't make sense to me, because that someone's going to get injured that way. So now educating personal trainers on, look, here's another tool for your toolbox. It doesn't always have to be just this certification way. There's other ways of looking at the body. So yeah.
No, and I love how much you're talking about the thing that fuels you, and the ability to communicate and to translate something, and like you say, the purpose for why you're on the earth. And then at the same time, it's like taking full responsibility for that within your business, getting that feedback that you're making that difference. It's priceless. And it's so, like you say, working for these bigger gyms and these other brands, it doesn't quite feel like it's all yours, right? So let's say you were providing these things, but it's under someone else's brand, still doesn't have that same kind of power, right? But now you get to put that name behind your name and keep causing these changes. I think that's so powerful. So Megan, what made you want to dive into your own and create your own brand?
That was the perfect segue into my kind of story about why I did this, actually. So thank you for setting that up so well, Kyla. Um, so I was straight out of school. I had a very good job. I was hired out of a practicum, and I worked as a commission-based employee in a gym clinic. So I kind of had the best of both worlds, where I was working for somebody else and I didn't have to worry about any day-to-day functions. I could show up, see my clients, and leave. I was getting a great deal payment wise compared to a lot of other clinics where people get paid shitty rates to just pump people through and see more clients. And I was very fortunate that the owners of my space let me set my schedule how I wanted, to treat the way that I wanted, because they wanted me to not base decisions on my schedule based on how much my commission split was going to be or whatever. And they were very supportive of learning. It was a great environment to challenge me to keep doing all the other things that I wanted to do in terms of learning and teaching and everything. But I think it was around the 5-year point where I started to have this kind of feeling of like, okay, is this it? Is this what I'm going to be doing? Am I just going to be working for these people for the rest of my life? And I felt good about what I was doing, but I didn't think that anything else was possible, really, I think is what it was. And one day I decided to apply to grad school because I was like, well, maybe I'll just go back to school and figure something out that way. It took about 4 or 5 months, and then I figured I didn't get in. So I was like, well, fuck it, I'll quit my job and start my business. Turns out a week later, I got accepted into grad school. So then I ended up doing both, starting my business and going back to school at the same time, which was terrifying, but forced me to really think about my values and what I wanted. Subsequently, that same-ish timeline was when I met Gavin and the Mavericks. And I think now looking back, I can see that the reason I finally just took that leap and did it was because I was tired of wondering if people were coming to see me and valuing me because of the space that I worked. And at the time, I was super pumped and happy to be associated with these amazing people and a great job. And I was doing good work and getting referrals, getting results. But I always identified as Megan, the athletic therapist at this space. It was never just people are coming to see me. And I think deep down, I knew I needed that someone to just like fucking push me to like make that change. So it worked out. And now, only because of all of the work that I know you guys have all done too, like mindset wise, working with Mavericks, that I can realize that was, I think, the true reason why I chose to make that leap.
And it's a leap, right? It's a huge jump. And you know that I thought that was so inspirational because I'm always teasing the idea of a master's program myself, but the fact that you were able to do that in the midst of doing all of your own business work is incredible. And you also hit something that really resonated with me. It was like, wow, is this it? And that feeling when you're working for an organization, hey, things are going good. You know, I was working at an athletic gym and things are going good. The pay was probably like it was okay, but you know, the people you see and clients, all that over all the other bullshit's taken care of. You can see some extras here and there, but then it's this time for money thing that Gavin talks about. That's so different. Even if I made less money, but it was about piecework. It was about what I can provide to my clients, what I can create. It has a different resonance to it. And then there's also just the business is the limitation. I want to know that I'm my limitation and I can grow, right? So taking that responsibility is so powerful. I think that's such a cool story. So Shack Attack, how about yourself? And you know, I also want to start off by saying that you're quite young to dive into your own business, and I think that's so cool. So, what's made you dive into your own?
Well, basing off of what you just said, limitation is one of the main reasons why I started my business. So I started coaching 3 years ago, and I was still in university. Actually, I hadn't graduated yet. I landed a coaching job, and I was going to graduate in I think a year, and they trusted me. I seemed awesome to them, so they let me start coaching before I graduated. So that's great. But I got to a place where I was literally being promoted all the time, and I got to the top where I was just like right under management, and management wasn't teaching me anything. I was limited in how much I could learn now because I was coming from a kinesiology background, and the company I was working for did not come from that. And I knew I wanted to learn more clinical things, and they couldn't provide that at all. And in Manitoba as a whole, it was pretty limited on what I could learn in that field. Hence why I just moved to Toronto yesterday. But so the reason I created connectivity, separate from me being young, I'll dive into that after, is a combination of my life experiences plus my coaching experiences. So, like I said, I work with people that have chronic illnesses on body positivity and combine all of that into one. And I grew up around a lot of chronic illness, type 2 diabetes specifically. All of my grandparents had it. I was diagnosed with pre-diabetes at 18 years old, which is ridiculous. But that's kind of the reason why everything started so young for me, is because at a young age, I was already following the bad patterns and having health issues. So at that point, I knew what type 2 diabetes looked like, and I did not want to go down that road. So I started to change my life, started to eat healthier, exercise slowly. And yeah, lost weight, got out of the pre-diabetes phase, awesome, was coaching, doing good. But then I noticed I kind of hate myself. Why am I like overworking? Why am I always injured? Why am I going for 2 runs a day and feeling like crap after? And then I started to notice my clients having the same thing where they started to exercise, eat healthy, but now they're overdoing it. Now they're working out multiple times a day, pushing themselves to work out when they're not feeling good, um, literally crying while eating a salad, like just unhappy. And I'm like, all right, there's a whole other issue here. And I was in a place where I was working for another company where they kind of promoted these kind of patterns where it was like as a coach, we we talk about the problems with health, like, why do you want to lose weight, why do you want to change your life, and usually that comes from a negative place. But then I feel like we bank on it too much, and then we're like, okay, you felt like shit in your body, so you're going to do this exercise. But then we start to resent it because when do we start to feel happy with ourselves? And I'm like, this is a huge issue all over the health and fitness industry, so I'm gonna change it right now. So now I come at it as a place of love, a form of self-love. You feel good when you exercise. Why not do it because you love your body? You like to feel good after you eat a healthy meal. Why don't you do it because you love to feel good? Right? So, and you get the same habits without beating yourself up, and you feel good. So that's kind of my approach. That's why connectivity exists. And the reason why I started so young is because I experienced all these things so young. So, yes.
Yeah, and it's so true that this is a major mistake in the fitness industry. I think you'll all appreciate this. As being entrepreneurs, I came up with a really good analogy recently when I wrote one of my blogs. And so imagine, as we all have, probably working for a fitness company, or anyone working, because if you work a lot of hours, you'll make money, right? So that makes sense. So let's grind. Let's just grind. In this analogy, this is like doing a ton of exercise that you don't want to do, but you want to get the physique you want. So let's grind 12 to 15 hours a day. Let's do that. And then maybe one day we'll retire early. But realistically, first off, people try to retire too early from fitness. And we know what that's like to do those hours, and you resent your job, you resent your lifestyle, and you're not happy, even if you have money. And so then I say, why don't we flip that? Why don't we flip it with the entrepreneur mind? Why don't you treat your fitness and your lifestyle just like a small business? And you start with the things that you fucking love doing, and you grow that, and you get good at that, and you foster that, and you don't overwhelm yourself with it. And as that grows, that becomes your identity in who you are. And you can see how we can all appreciate this with our job and our business, that we don't hesitate to put in 12-hour days. We don't hesitate to, but it's not because of I need to, it's because I desire it. And it's no different for your training and your fitness and all that, because it should be something that you're passionate about, and it's because it's who you are. So I just felt you all appreciate that little analogy I came up with recently. And it was a big eye opener for me, because I'm very similar, where I'll still make the mistakes here and try to cardio my way to a physique. And it's more about what can the lifestyle bring out of your like you say, your self-worth and your value. So that's very powerful. Now I got a really good question here, and don't hesitate to dive into this, because this is what I was really hoping to get into, is so people understand the challenges around being an entrepreneur and owning your own business. And so there's a couple here, and I'll start with what has been some of your biggest challenge or obstacles running your own. And I also want you to talk about the pros and cons, like the guilt slash freedom that we all incur from having this personal business. So Jen, let's start with you. What is your has been some of the biggest challenge and obstacles in your personal business right now?
Uh, honestly, it's like feeling like the model, uh, kind of like model citizen, if you will, for my clients. feeling like I have to have all my shit sorted out. I have to be showing up as if, I've literally got to mirror, you know, uh, the most loving way to show up at all times, which is complete bullshit. Because honestly, it's okay. Well, how do we deal with that, right? Um, Hugest, honestly, challenge for me is discipline. Because when you have so much freedom, how are you supposed to force yourself to write something you don't really feel like? Especially when it's summer, man. Like the sun's out, Cayenne's here. I might want to like just go tickle her toes or something and then get distracted. Oh yeah, working from home, holy shit. Like I get distracted. There's a pile of clothes on the other side of my bed, which I strategically placed there for this call. So, like it's like, oh, look, something else to clean. Oh, look, something else to do, right? And allowing myself to constantly get pulled. And it's really a practice in exercising that self love, right? And that I come first, me first. Get out of bed, do your own workout, eat your own healthy smoothie, don't drink 20 coffees first, whatever, right? Whatever it is that fills my cup first and then allows me to get into work. Yeah, see, Megan, I recently realized I like love working, right? And so I have to remember that the majority of my work that I do for my business comes from the work that I do taking care of myself. So that's been the biggest mine.
And that takes, actually, I'll even just say this. It takes a while for us to learn, and some people never learn it. Actually, quite a few of our clients never learn it. And that's the biggest obstacle that we have to overcome with them, is that we need to remind them that, more you show up tired and not healthy, not feeling good for other people, it's just making it worse, right? And it's a very powerful thing. But one of the things that I wanted to point out, I'm willing to bet we all have to deal with, is the imposter syndrome, right? Is that we have this standard, like we have our own business. So we better have all our shit together. So there's no doubt that that's always going to be an underlying factor. And I think something that I realized is it's like, it's not going to go away. And in some way it shouldn't, because I always want to feel like I could be better. And it's not that I'm a complete pretend, but I'm trying to practice to become this person. Therefore, I always feel like there's more that I could be. And instead of being this absolute authoritarian person, I might present myself as some information. I am, but I also don't lie and say I'm on a journey too. Right. And so I think just the idea of, you feel the need to have your shit so together and it's not. But who hasn't been a part of an organization that's a mess? It doesn't, no matter how big it is, once you start out, it's like, oh, really? They did that? It's like, people are stupid no matter how big the organization. So when it's just you, it's like, yeah, it's going to happen. And it's that practice. I love how you said that. So that's my little side tangent there. Kyla, how about for yourself? What's your biggest obstacle in running your own?
Um, I do want to touch on what you said though, too. One of the things, like you said, like when you start your own business, you feel like you have to have your shit together. You feel like, because you look at examples from the outside perspective of other people's businesses, they're like, oh, they have their shit together, like they got stuff going on, and I have to be this authority. Whereas the more authentic you can be, the more you have your shit together. So it's like, you can, and that's one of the things that I really push in not just my clients but in myself, of like being just straight up about it. I'm like, I ask my clients every time, the first thing I ask them, how's it going, where are we mentally today, what's going on? And it's like, oh, by the way, me too, I'm not fully here. I have a lot going on in my business. When my clients understand, like, oh, Kyla's being very upfront about what's going on, the more that I'm not putting pressure on myself as like a business owner, and I'm not like thinking like, oh my God, I have to be this business owner, and I can just keep doing what I need to do, practicing and making sure, and again, practicing what you preach. So I'm practicing being authentic because I want my clients to be as authentic as they can be, and like the best that they can be too. So that's a that actually goes into like challenges too. It's like, how do I tell my clients that I'm struggling mentally majority of the time? I would say like one of my biggest things, and it goes with what Jen said too, like this whole self-love thing, this whole making sure I'm taking care of myself is a big challenge that I've had to deal with the past year and a half of running this thing. It's when you run this thing and it's only you think like I have to take care of my clients, I have to take care of this, I have to do the financial stuff, I got to do posting, I got to do all this stuff, where like you get further and further down in the back burner. And so one of the biggest things again is like just being upfront about it. Was like, okay, look, I'm burnt out. I don't know what to do. And I was thinking about it while y'all were talking was why is the reason we all have Gavin? Like coaches need coaches too. Trainers need trainers too. I I'm a personal trainer and I don't work out as often as I should, right? Like I don't how can you be this coach and this trainer and this advocate for these people and you don't even do what you do? So, like I said, like we all have Gavin for a reason because we all needed it. We all needed that at the time. And now we have now switched to being here for each other instead and making sure that all of us understand because all of us are going through it, we're all going through it, but in our own ways where we each can like talk about it and be there for each other and like, hey, this has happened to me, or I've had this conversation, and oh, I've had that DM before. Like, so I would say like the pros about having a business and you find a community that's literally going through the same thing, that has helped me so much to not just like get my shit together, but also like love what I do, like I cannot express how much I love you guys. Like I really like why the hell do you think I'm going to Canada? Like I'm all the way in freaking freaking Texas, And so one of those things is like I'm trying to combat the cons. I'm trying to combat the burnout. I'm trying to combat all that stuff, but also the pros outweigh the cons so much because I can never work for somebody ever again. Let me tell you, I could never. But because I am authentic, because I do ask for help, because you guys are here, I can keep combating it even on the worst days too.
Well, you really hit something so important there is that how, if you don't, this support system. And what people don't realize is that, like, especially when they don't come to us and clients don't come to us, but everyone needs a support system. And probably the one thing that I miss the most of being in an organization is working with a team. But that's where the Maverick Coaching Academy has been great. And we have our mastermind group, and I'm gonna try to start some with my clients because these discussions that we get to have, like you say, it's like, yeah, I know that DM, or yeah, I know this mindset, and Gab gets us to do practices that gets us feeling better about, like, it's just really, it's coaching. It's like, get your mind right, because like the information's there. It's like, why aren't we right? And that ends up being very important. And to really be able to just tell someone, this is why it's hard for me, and you want to convey that to someone, right? And you want to convey, this is why I'm having a hard time, because you're just telling yourself. And then instead you don't get to have any discussions, you don't get to brainstorm and stuff like that, because it's a part of what a work environment normally does. But having a coach, having someone to coach you and guide you. So I try to do, in the spring, there was supposed to be a bodybuilding show. It got moved a couple times, but when it was originally going to be like kind of early spring or July, I was doing it all myself. And the previous time, I had my old boss mentor me through it, and so I always had someone to be like, man, I'm in, like, when you're doing bodybuilding diets, it's terrible, right? So I'm like, man, these are tough days, man. He's like, yeah, it is. Yeah, so I would just adjust this. No, you're on the right path. Yeah, these are the kind of workouts. So it was just something to bounce off of. And when I was doing it in the spring, I just had to film my girlfriend's ear because there was no one. I didn't hire a coach. I'm like, I'm not making that mistake again for this kind of a journey. That's so stupid, because it's like, it doesn't even so much matter as much of the information. I'm aware of most of it, but you need someone. It's no different. Let's say no athlete doesn't have a coach at a high level, right? So if you want to do well, why don't you improve your odds even if it's just someone to tell you you're doing the right thing? You need to hear that, because a boss would tell you if you're doing the right or wrong thing. But if you don't have that, then hire someone to tell you you're doing the right or wrong thing, right? So yes, I try to as much as I can, Jen. So Meg, let's flip for yourself. What's been kind of the biggest obstacle and challenge in running your own?
I was like taking notes furiously during what you guys were all saying, because there's so many things in my head right now that I think I want to talk about. But I think it's very similar to like what Jen, Kyla, and like you guys have all said so far. But I think the biggest con for me at first was thinking that I needed to do everything completely by myself, because now that I was leaving a company, I was leaving a successful job, like I created this definition of success for myself, that it was like, I have to do everything by myself. I have to be super confident and happy and make it seem like everything's going well, because I don't want people to think that I failed from going out on my own, and just creating this like insane pressure on myself that way, which eventually led into one of the best pros of being on my own, is that like I literally get to define what success is for myself now. And I have zero expectation from other people, even if it's an expectation that like I made up, that I thought that they had of me, of like, oh, I need to see so many clients, or I need to make so much money, or whatever it is. Like now I have nobody to answer to but myself. And if me being successful is working less and taking the time to focus on myself, then great. If it's working more, then cool. It seems a lot more weighted evenly now, because I get to make that choice. And I think kind of along with the idea of making it seem like I had to do everything completely by myself and be such a, stereotypical strong independent woman type thing, of like I couldn't ask for help at the beginning, is how I thought. So I felt like I needed to figure it out on my own. I wasn't used to having the support of other people, because I never gave myself the opportunity to have that support, whether it was in business or even in like my outside of work life. Like I thought I couldn't ask for help with my surgery rehab. I thought I couldn't ask for help mental health wise coming out of that, when I was dealing with a lot of exercise anxiety, because who the hell's going to trust me as a client if I can't help myself? But it wasn't until I finally found people like you guys who were like, no, that's like, fucking talk about that. That's what is going to get people to trust you. And I had to like have this safe space, I guess, to like get it out. And I remember the first time we were all in a room together, like the first time I like cried about it and talked about it, it was like a weight was finally off my shoulders. I was like, fuck, okay, now I can help people. So all of those cons shifted into pros once I had the right people around me.
That's powerful right there. Like holding on to that, holding
Yeah.
on to that part of your identity. And I think what's great is, like you said, you've come to this realization that I create my own expectations. And that's something I always dedicated a lot of my career to, is, my family members, my siblings are all successful in their careers working for other people. No one can compare to what the fuck I'm doing, because it's a newer field, and like I'm gonna own my own. Like my dad's the only one who can compare, but he came from a farmer and works on the farm, so it's all brand new, right? And there's no fucking guidebook to how to do it, right? And so for you to find these own terms, and I think one of the challenges we have constantly is going to be the guilt and freedom, right? It's like, am I doing enough? Calm down, take care of yourself, and be free. And I think I don't think it's ever going to leave. You just get better at handling it. I think that's something I really recognize with human emotions, is don't expect emotions to dissipate entirely. There's a reason they're there. Because if I don't feel guilt at a certain time, it's like 6 p.m. and I want to hang it up and I know I could do more work. No, it's okay that I'm guilty. I feel like I could do more. But then if it's like 9 p.m. and I feel like, okay, I've been on the screen all day, no, it's okay. You need some freedom. And these little things that, again, it goes back to the practice to excel in your business and everything like that. You got to understand where you got to the self-love and self-critique. Okay. And I came up with this analogy. I'm an analogy guy, you know this. So I use the example of the dry summer, because I say that the sun is like, it's the potential for a plant to grow and challenge itself to grow. But if you don't have the reins of self-love and replenishment, it's going to dry up and your negative thoughts can spread like wildfire. So just like the plant life has to have rain and dryness, and it's literally challenge yourself, treat yourself. It's like self-love, self-critique, and it's a constant battle, but that's literally how you grow. It's literally the whole process. So I just wanted to throw that in there, but I think that's so powerful that you're recognizing that balance so much.
Yeah, and I think again it all comes back to the same thing of having just that like group of people though who get it to talk about it with, because these are the types of things that like there is no chance I would have thought about these things on my own and like actually never mind actually said them out loud, right? And I think some of the struggle of working for other companies and working for other people is it's fucking terrifying to say these things sometimes, because it's like, okay, if I tell them I want to work less because I need to do this, like, are they just going to fire me? Are they going to get what I'm going through? Like, their expectation is I'm going to show up and give 100% of my 100% all the time because they don't make money if I don't make money. So there's always this weird dynamic, I think, even if nobody said it and they try to make it seem like it's not there, I always felt like it was. In other jobs too, not just in my AT career. So having again the space to make your own decisions and the people to talk it out with, like you guys, to be like, no, fuck, like you're not crazy. Like this is a normal thing. Like you're not the only one. We all have been there in some capacity is the most powerful part of owning my own business, I think, really.
Yeah, absolutely. The ability to converse with your problems, right? Because I never, I never even thought of it like that. It's a really good point that it's like a faux pas. Like, how can you come to work? It's like, yeah, guys, I want to talk about my feelings today because I feel like shit. And no, it's like people are, oh man, even though they're probably all having them, like it's very relevant in this day and age. But like you say, you're expected. It's the expectation, 110%. And now, you have your own, and you can accept your own, and you can have someone support you, right? And that's very powerful. So Shack Attack, why don't you dive into this? And we've hit on a lot of points, so I'm willing to bet some of them kind of resonate with you. What has been the biggest obstacle in running your own?
Okay, I have two I want to cover because it just came up when you guys started talking. So just to touch on what Megan was talking about there, about having that space while working with someone or under someone versus in your own business. So a big con for me would be allowing myself to take the time off when I know I need it. And um, this kind of came up from what she just said because I was just thinking about back in 2019 when I was working for another company, and I did actually ask for some time off because my mom had just went into the hospital for something very, very critical. And I was forced back into work about 2 days after because some new clients wanted to coach with me specifically, and they didn't give me the space I needed to mentally deal with what was happening. It was huge. It was scary. I had so many emotions. I knew I couldn't show up as a coach in my best self. And I was honest about that. And they didn't allow me to have that space. And now in my own company, I still kind of battle myself on that too. I'm like, okay, I know I need this time off, but should I just try to push through it and service these clients because that's what I did in these other companies and they're successful. So I have that internal battle with myself sometimes. But I'd say with working with Mavericks and being around real people, I've learned that it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to take days off. I never took days off ever in my life. I think working on my own, although I fight myself, I've taken more days off for myself than I ever have in my life. And overall, I think it was beneficial, but it's still an internal battle feeling like you have to work your 12 hours a day. I still love my company, but you need time off of it as well. So that has definitely been a con, that internal battle. But again, talking with a group of like-minded people is very helpful for that. The second thing I wanted to touch on is not feeling like I know enough. I have identity fraud like every second day in my mind because I'm like, okay, there's so much to know about chronic illness. There's so much to know about body positivity. I talk about intuitive eating. There's just so, I can get so deep into each one of those and I don't even know where to start. I almost feel like I just know surface level of all of them. Even coming out of my degree, I'm like, okay, I have a lot of knowledge, but I still don't know that I have enough. So again, I talked this through with Gab for sure a few times where I'm like, should I be doing this? Like, should I just like pause my whole program and just go learn more first or take another course or another certification? He's like, no. Are you helping your clients right now? Yes. So that's another big thing I find being an entrepreneur is hard. It's like the amounts you can learn is endless. I think it's hard to ever be an expert in something, and running your own business is almost like you feel like you should be an expert in it, but it's impossible. So that's a big con for me, but I just continue to learn and just keep adding value as much as I can and know that what I'm giving out is helping other people. And the more I learn, great, but it's not really a requirement. You know, it's not that I'm not good enough right now. It's that I just like to provide as much as I can. So, yeah.
I just wanted to say good morning.
So yeah, no, that's some great stuff. And oh, that's how you raise your hand. I wasn't sure how you did that, Megan. Just how you raise your hand there. So Megan has a little comment here. Chime in.
Yeah, I 100% resonate with what Shaq said about the learning side of things. And I know anybody who knows me is I am probably the biggest nerd in Mavericks and maybe Winnipeg fitness industry right now. Because like I've taken 30, 40, well, no, more than 40 continuing ed courses. I went back to school because I love to learn. But the best part about my own business now is that like I'm learning because I want to. Whereas again, before when I was working for other people, it's that fear of like having to prove myself and like what's next. And I was surrounded by so many incredible smart people. It turned into another like identity crisis of like, okay, I'm not good enough to work with these people. Like I need to keep doing more, even though I was doing really, really good things. It just always felt like I wasn't good enough because somebody else was doing more or somebody else did something different. So I was like, well, fuck, I got to learn that too, or I'm going to fall behind. But it's like, fall behind of what? And that was a really, really big mind fuck. And again, like once I was in my own kind of environment bubble, I was able to kind of sit back a little bit more and be like, okay, I learned so much from all of that and I would not change a single thing that I did. I've gotten so much value out of everything I learned, but I can frame it differently now of like, I'm doing it because I genuinely want to, not because somebody else planted the seed in my head and now I'm questioning, am I really doing this for myself or am I doing it for other people?
It's so challenging
Yeah.
to know enough. And that's
Yeah.
like you know, like I said that right at the get-go, it's like imposter syndrome is impossible, right? Because like you say, there's always it's the world is continuing its education. The world is always going to have new things. And you know, social media is such a dangerous place for a professional because you know it doesn't even matter the field. Like you're always going to see someone doing exponentially ridiculous things. And so you're just thinking, oh wow, I don't know anything. I literally had this happen in the spring or in the winter. I'm like, I was questioning what I knew about everything. And so I felt like I just had to go buy a continuing education course. And it's like, then once I took this course, and it was from a pretty well renowned Joe DeFranco, renowned strength coach, and I took it and I looked at all the stuff and I was like, oh, I know 90% of this. And so there was certainly like extra stuff that I learned that was extra tips and tricks and good, like I still learned. But then it just assured me, I'm like, no, yeah, like this is a lot of the information. And there is more to know, but we're always going to battle it. And again, I'll come back to just like you say, on your own terms and for almost your own motivation of like, I just want to know more. And just like it, that's the lifestyle. That's the lifestyle of like, well, I will just accept that feeling once again, that it's always going to be there. I always want to improve. And there's something I wanted to touch on with Shaq, where you had said about just always working and always needing to put in hours and all this stuff. And I remember you and I had talked when you had a hard Sunday the one day. And I'm not sure if you remember, but one of the things that I think was powerful for you and what I always kind of look at myself is because we're so used to the hours of the day being dedicated to specific things as working hourly wages. But then I kind of asked her because she had said like she wasn't sure how much time she was putting in. I'm like, no, not hours directly one on one with a client. How many hours do you work with an intent to improve yourself or your business? And she said all day. And it was just this kind of light bulb moment for her. And it's like that's where you can really get a little bit more of the forgiveness for yourself, because it's like certainly some days we need to just Netflix and chill and do nothing, but most days, even when you're listening to a podcast, you're trying to do something on just as far as trying to do training, a new training style, anything like this, anything that brings you to be a better version of yourself is nurturing your business, right? And so living with intent is a whole different concept, and it's unmeasurable what you're doing as an entrepreneur when you're actually trying to always improve yourself on the outside, right? So I got one more question because we're doing a lot of great conversation here, and I know this one is a hopefully a really good one to finish it off. And this is a Strong Ambition podcast. That's why it was great to have all you ladies on here as entrepreneurs. And so what I would like to know is just two simple ones, but you can dive into it as much as you want, because being an entrepreneur, it requires that extra fire, and you probably have talked about it already, but even if you can think of someone or something in your life that has been your biggest inspiration. And I also want to know, what is your most current ambition? What is something that you're like that inspiration is driving you to do to really set you apart, to move you forward in the near future here? Oh, Shaq raised her hand. She's fired up. Okay, hand raised. This is a powerful tool. Let's see it, Shaq. What's your biggest inspiration and your current ambition?
Okay, so my whenever someone asks me my biggest inspiration, I always kind of pause because um, I never really had a specific person I looked up to. But over the last couple of days, I've been really thinking about it, and I have to say my grandpa. So not anyone famous or anything like that, but just the fact that my own bloodline, he moved from the Caribbean to Canada specifically to build his own business in something he was passionate about. He moved his entire family. And um, like looking at it, I'm like, no one else in my family really did that except for me. I always had that kind of in the back of my mind. Like he moved continents to build something that he was passionate about, and he worked it until he couldn't. And that was just inspiring to me because he loved his life. Like he was happy. It was such a great environment whenever I was around him, and that's the type of life I aspire to live. I have seen the other side of things where family members have went into fields they hate, and they're working specifically just to make money to live, and they're living to work, and it's just like not it's there's no passion in there. It's boring, it's sad, it's stressful, because they're literally just making ends meet, and that's all they're doing. And I'm like, I don't aspire to live that life. I've seen it, seen both firsthand. And why wouldn't you want to love what you're doing all the time, love what you're spending hours a day on, and make it work? So I'd say that's my biggest inspiration for sure, is just seeing the life difference, the life experience when you're doing something you love versus just making ends meet just because. Um, yes, and then my biggest ambition right now is pretty much to create that for myself. So I was just talking to Megan yesterday about how I will literally throw up if I have to just work to live. Like that is not a goal of mine. I'm here to experience my life at the fullest, create the happiest life for me, the life I want to live. Let's create it. We have literally one life. Like literally just smoke a joint and think about it. Why are we working jobs that we hate? For what? So that's my little piece there.
Well, actually, that's main reason why a lot of us are into this. Like it's the fact that like so many people don't realize that they have a choice, and I mean, I think a lot of us are also blessed to have a choice, right? So it's I think so courageous for your grandfather to go through that, and then like because he would have been in a time that it is about living to eat and surviving, but he then took it upon himself. So that would give me goosebumps, absolutely. But then to ensure that you carry that forward is very powerful. And I always actually, for me, it's my dad and the farm and my parents, because it's like you just got to look at where you come from, and the opportunity you have, and be grateful for it. We walk on the shoulder of giants, right? So Jen, how about for yourself? Let's soul sister, what is your greatest
So good.
inspiration?
My blue tank top friend. Yeah. um I was thinking about this and I'm like, I don't really know. But when I think about it, uh I've always been kind of like rebellious and had like a little bit of an attitude, just a little bit of an attitude, right? And so growing up, my grandparents used to babysit us a lot, and my grandma, who's actually downstairs, she's she used to say to me, she'd say, "Have a mind of your own, have a mind of your own," right? And so it was always like, okay. And so I guess that was like inceptualized into the brain, right? Like, is a good way to be? I think I've always been surrounded by a positive support system, and I can go any which way I want. And Disney, man, they're like right at the front line of my ambition and happiness and joy, right? And just seeing shit come together, and the color and the magic, and hey, anything's possible, right? um so I think a little bit of that rebelliousness really is a little bit of that guiding light. It's like, don't tell me I can't do this. I'll do that if I want, and I'll show you how, right? It's like, don't tell me I can't. Why can't I work from home? Why do I have to go to this place to do that? Like, I was the worst. I used to ask my boss which way they wanted something, and then I would turn around and be like, I don't like it that way. I want it this way. And so I stopped doing that, right? So just kind of realizing that I have my own opinions and they're cool and I can follow that. And my current ambition, I am also a lifelong learner. So I've applied to school for September to take psychology, and I'm going to take some Spanish classes. Just because I told you guys I'm moving to Costa Rica. So my plan is end February, right? I'm going out there for at least 4 to 5 months. And I already told my mom, I was like, Mom, I got 7 months. Okay. Like, if I'm close and like I need some help, are you gonna help me just get over the edge so I can make it happen? She's like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've kind of got like I feel like my parents believe in this ambition for me, and so that feels good, right? I'm like, okay, now let's create it. So that's what's driving me, and um like just yeah, it's yeah, seeing the impact that it's making on my clients too. Sorry, I'm taking so long. And how like they're fucking making massive scary ass changes in their lives, and it's amazing. It's so cool. I'm like, my job is to do this scary shit and go out there because other people are looking for us to do this, right? So
Well, I love how you say that. It's so true. That was what actually led me to my first bodybuilding show. And it's like when you commit to something scary that, your clients would almost never do or have a hard time doing something for themselves. It's inspiring to them, right? And I heard that a lot. And what you had said was also really powerful is when you tell people you're going to do something. Now it's physical. Now it's in a three-dimensional world, and it's no longer just in your head. It's no longer just a thought. And now action has to ensue, right? And that's the way you do it. That's how you make things that are uncomfortable become true. And people have a hard time committing because it's like sometimes there's this little question like, can I? But it's also just like, do I want to? Like there's this little in between. It's not even if you can a lot of the time. It's, do you want to put in the work? Do you want to put yourself out there and challenge yourself to put in work? So I'm excited. I'm gonna have to come visit you in Costa Rica. I'm looking forward to it. That'll be fun. Kyla, how about for yourself? Inspiration and ambition.
Man, I, all y'all like there's new things that come in every single time you guys talk to. I was thinking about it, and I was I always come back to why, like why the hell did I even start this? Why the hell did I even like get a kinesiology degree? Why the hell did I get married? Like, like why did I do all this, And so I'm going to tell you a few whys. So my very first one was like, how did I get that first little like spark of like personal training, and why the hell I'm doing it now, and from the very first experience I had. And so I know I'm going to be really long on my answer too. So my very first like personal training job actually was at like an elderly home. Like it was like I was going to like these 70 plus year olds like rooms, and like giving them bands and just like telling them to kick, and like was just there for like 30 seconds. I'm like, look, you did your workout. And I had one that they were like, hey, she can barely pay for you. Hey, she can barely walk. We want to get her to where like she doesn't have to use her walker as much, and like all this, like the grumpiest lady, And finally she just started opening up to me one day and was just telling me like about her life. She just lost her husband, and like I was like empathizing with her. And then, every time she would answer the door when I go see her, she had her walker. One day I go up to her apartment and she opens the door, she doesn't have her walker, and I was like, whoa, what you doing? Like, what are you doing? And she was like, I wanted to answer the door to surprise you that I didn't have to use my walker today. And I was like burst I'm about to burst into tears now. And it's like and she was like, I want to thank you. Thank you for just listening to me, and thank you for getting me to this place. And I always like take that into every session that I have. So that's a big why for me. And so I have to remember that when I'm having my hard days, when I'm dealing with a client that's not as easy. And so that's like a big thing for me on my why. And so again, I'm also learning to love myself a little bit more, and trying to give that back to little Kila, trying to give that back to this Kila that has gone through a lot of shit. And like Shaq, like I'm young too. I went through a lot of shit really freaking fast in life that I think I deserve to have this life, this freedom, this. And it's been a long time for me to say that out loud and believe it too. So I also give back to her. And then of course, I always talk about husband, and I'm giving back to the life that I've always wanted for us, and trying to work my ass off now, and create this thing now that when we do have kids, when we're sitting on the sidelines at our kids soccer games saying like, damn, this is the life. Like this is cool. Like this is what I'm working for. I'm working so hard so that one day we don't have to worry about paying the bills. One day we don't have to worry about if our kid wants to go do something and it costs money. Sure, whatever you want to do. And I want to be that parent, or that wife, or that friend that is just like, here, I'm here, I'm finally present and here, and I'm not thinking about how stressed out I am, or if I have to get a workout in today, or if I'm having a mental breakdown. Like it's just, I want to have the life that I do have actual freedom from, even myself and my inner thoughts too. So again, that's my ambition, and that's kind of what I've been working towards, and still going to be working towards for a while. And like right now, again, I made it a huge thing to come to Canada. Like I was like, I need this. Like I worked my ass off to come see these people, because you guys changed my life. Like, you really have. And I want to make sure that I give that back to you guys too, and say like, I'm going to give each and every one of you guys a hug like the second I get there. So I'm trying to just more or less give back to everything that has ever come at me, and say, you know what? Look, little Kyla, husband, mom and dad, my clients, you guys need this. And this is what I can give to you. And this is the person I am presently now for who I am.
I love that, and I am very excited to hug you as well, Kyla. I think that's I think it's going to be an extremely fun weekend there in September. And it's I love how that first story is so powerful. That very first, like it's really true that the first time that you change someone's life is life changing for you, because there is no greater thing to do in this world. I mean, society is really built on this the foundation of it's your job to help society in some way. But what's really cool about our industry is that we are face to face and we are intimate with these people, right? You change their lives at a very real level. Like other jobs are more distant and not necessarily like when I used to run boot camps, every day people would say thank you. I'm like, I'm just doing my job. But having it at that point, at that level where you can just see that you have changed this individual's life that was quite challenging, but then really you're also their friend. You end up being very close to your clients in this, and you didn't even think that that's what you're going to be, but half the time you're a therapist for them. So definitely comes to be a part. Maggie, I saw you writing so many notes down. I'm so excited for this answer. I feel like you're gonna have a little essay to write here. You're gonna read out your essay here. Come on, hit me with
Maybe
it.
a
I'm
little bit.
excited.
I love fucking writing a good essay. So what would you expect anything less? But before I get into my thing, I want to say to Kyla, like you said that you want to be this person who's like present and here, and like you fucking are already. And I know like all of us here and in our community in general can say that you 100% are that friend for all of us when you need it. So just keep fucking doing what you're doing. And I have no doubt that you're going to be that in any aspect of your life. So I wasn't kidding when I said in our little chat here that I was probably going to cry when I said all of this. Because honestly, if you had asked me 2 years ago, maybe even a year ago, who my inspiration was and what my ambition was, I would have probably just rattled off a list of like the teacher that inspired me in high school to be an athletic therapist and the people I've continued to learn from and work with, and that my biggest ambition was to make some change in the industry, which I'm working on, and I'm working with the board of certification and all this stuff to kind of change some things in athletic therapy and curriculum stuff. But I think now I recognize that those are goals as opposed to what like my actual ambition is, which has come from a total shift in my inspiration, which is now it's honestly like you guys and the rest of the people in the Mavericks group, because I think I've learned more in the past 2 years about how to be a better person and how to live in a way that's true to myself, and have so many people believe in me when I didn't believe in me and challenge me on things. And I have like these such clear memories of conversations with all of you guys one-on-one and with other people. Like Ryland, I always go back to when we were driving to Hecla. Like you asked me one fucking simple question in the car about like, how would you rate your happiness? And like just that question alone fucking changed how I was thinking about things. And now I think I just want to live in a way where I can be that person for other people. And you guys are the ones who inspire me to do that. So yes, I still have like my industry goals, but like I just want to have a fucking amazing life, which I would not have said that those were separate a couple of years ago.
That is a different person that I'm talking to right now. I am honestly just imagining us driving out to Hecla if I could imagine you saying those words. And I think that is especially because that I felt kind of bad because you were just like, you were unaware of like where you belonged with their level of happiness and the right to it. And now you're just so aware. I deserve this and I need this. And that's awesome. And I think that even gets me to think again, like I love how everyone had a bit of a different style and inspiration and depiction of what I meant by inspiration and ambition. And yours is about lifestyle and it's coming back to like how to live. How do you want your life to be? And you're just literally about peace with yourself, and I think that identity is so vital because we could accomplish all these goals. We could do a lot of things, but Kyla just wants to go play soccer or watch her kids play soccer and not think about work. You just want to think about, really just that self-fulfillment of who you are as a person. And I think this is so cool. I think that this is why I wanted this roundtable, to hear these ideas and hear these expressions. And I'll quickly share mine because I'm kind of pretty simple. The traditional parents. For myself, my inspiration was actually working with a client, or actually working with a friend, boxing with a friend. Then I just started doing the workout before him, and then I would show him what I did. And at the end of the month, I saw a different person. That, wow, I changed this man. And knowing that, hey, I could get paid for this was just like my light bulb moment. It's like, why am I going doing construction? And that's a miserable industry, and I could help people like this. But the true inspiration for me was going from, branching away from the farm, branching away from, I know my dad wanted me to run the farm and stuff like that, but it wasn't for me. And I told him one night, and I told him many times since then, I couldn't do the farm, but I'm going to do the shit out of everything else that I do because I have that right. Because my mom is the most supportive person I've ever met. And so I support my clients like my mom supported me. And I work my ass off like my dad does every day on his farm. I literally look forward to the harvest, to watch a man that's over 60 years old do 15-hour days back to back to back without blinking. Meanwhile, I'm in the tractor, like I'm getting, oh no, I'm not. So just watching him, I can't be tired because he's twice my age and busting his ass. So that's my inspiration. And my ambition is similar to all yours. Is certainly I want to live my life to the fullest. Is this give and take between, I really want to live and work hard for people, but I got to enjoy my life. It's never been about the money, but I believe if you chase your passion and you're good at it because it's your passion, you're going to make some money. And then you should also be able to make that impact. And for me, I want to create a brand that is known, that is renowned for that is renowned for changing people's lives. And that's the big picture for me. So this has been amazing. This is a great chat. I did figure it was going to go more than the hour that I had booked, but let's finish off with plug in the info. Let's make sure everyone knows where they can find you, ladies. And I'm also going to, certainly post it on the show notes and stuff like that. But Jen Hernandez, Kickstarted, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you guys, they can either find me on my website at www.jenniferhernandez.ca or on Instagram at Jennifer_Hernandez_coaching.
Love it. Okay, Kila Duncan, where can they find you?
Same. You can find me at purelystrong.com or at purelystrongfitness on Instagram.
Awesome. And Megan?
I am empowermentrehab.com, or Instagram is just my name, Megan Pomerensky, which I know you'll spell out and I won't say it here.
Awesome. Yes. And Shaq?
You can find me on Instagram at Kinactivity. Website is being rebuilt right now, so we'll stick with Instagram for the moment.
Yeah, that's where all the magic happens. That's great. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for doing this. We're going to do it again sometime. This has been an awesome talk. I love talking about this kind of stuff with you gals, and I'm very looking forward to seeing you guys in the fall.
Thank you.
Thanks again to the ladies of the VIP crew. That was a really, really fun conversation. It was just fun to hear how everyone has their own struggles and their own ambition, their own perception for what they need to do in their life, and how we struggle similarly. And we also have the similar passions, but we all have our own little take on it, and what gets us through, and the perspective of how we're just trying to drive to be the best versions of ourselves for other people. So I hope you all enjoyed this. You get a little bit of an insider perspective of what it's like behind the scenes of business owners in the fitness industry. I'll be doing more of these in the future with some other members of the VIP crew, but I'm definitely going to have those ladies on again sometime in the future, and we'll dive into more of the challenges within this day and age in the business. I hope you all enjoyed it. Remember to check out all the links to reach out to any of the different guests that we had today. And don't forget to check out my website, rqtrainingnutrition.com. Check out my Instagram at rqtrainingnutrition. And most importantly, Don't forget, it's not about the pursuit of happiness, but the happiness within the pursuit.